address the way that you are kind of combating law's contribution to systemic racism. You did kind of address that. But a lot of students asked, of all the legal cases, of all the people you've helped, is there any one case that had like a really big impact? I don't know if you're like legally allowed to say, but is there any one specific person or case you've done that just had a lasting impact?
Yeah, if you go to that link, you'll see the Daily Press covered a case that I did almost exactly 10 years ago, where my client was 16 years old, not much older than some of you are now, maybe even younger than some of you, where she got into a fight that involved adults. And she ended up engaged in a fight with a 13-year-old. And during the fight, we don't know exactly how, but the 13-year-old ended up getting stabbed several times. And so there I am standing with my 16-year-old client who was just convicted of attempted murder. But she was acquitted on the deliberation and premeditation. That's her mom. She had a seizure as the verdict was handed down. And so that is something that has stuck with me, because I walked into the judge's chamber and this was, we were set it for trial. We went into court that day, and we were supposed to start the case at 8:30. We didn't start until 1:30 because we were negotiating the case and arguing back and forth. My client stuck to her innocence, but at the same time, all the writing on the wall was if we took the case to trial, we'd have a hard time getting an acquittal from the people in Victorville because of the way that they treated particularly minority youth in the criminal justice system. And so I fought very hard to get the judge to dismiss her case. And what the judge told me was, counsel, I know you think your client is innocent, and I know she says she's innocent. I'm going to ask you a single question. Is it better that your client serves 7 years in prison as an innocent person, or the rest of her life in prison, which is what I'm going to give her if she's convicted? That's a question you don't ever expect to have a judge ask you with regard to the criminal justice system. We are taught that it is better that 10 guilty people go free than for one innocent person to suffer incarceration. But that's not the case. That is not how the system works. And in fact, judges will very clearly tell you that you play stupid prizes, you win, or play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You take this case to trial and you are convicted, I am going to give you the highest punishment possible, whether you think your client is innocent or not. And that's what happened in this case. Luckily, she was acquitted on the deliberation and premeditation, so she didn't get life in prison, but she was sentenced to 13 years. And so that case right there basically reshaped my thinking of the criminal justice system, and really which cases I take to trial, just because we had worked the DA down to such a good deal, and we rejected the deal, and she ended up facing or getting 4 times more time than what she would have gotten if we had accepted the deal. So the criminal justice system is harsh. And it certainly contributes to systemic racism. I had a case that was in 2017. Actually, that was covered in the press as well, where my client held 3 workers at gunpoint for 20 minutes and fired the weapon in the front yard, did some really bad things. But because he had real good resources, right? He hired my firm. We took his case to trial. We lost again, but I filed 16 sentencing memorandums. And even though the time he should have gotten, mandatory time that he was required to get under the law, was 22 years in prison, He served 4 months and in county jail, and the judge ended up letting him go. And that had everything to do with the fact that he had resources, the ability to acquire counsel, and the ability to take his case where it did. Many people don't have those resources. Many people don't get the deals and the offers from the district attorney because of how they look. If you look like me and you are my client, I can tell you right now, you're going to get a far worse offer than you would if you were a white man or a white woman. It is just the simple fact of the matter is it is harder to get better deals when your clients are poor and minority, and it is harder to get cases dismissed when your clients are poor and minority. And so people who are poor minority usually end up getting convicted at a much higher rate because their cases aren't dismissed, and they spend more time in prison because they get longer sentences statistically than other people who have resources or get more sympathy as they're going throughout the criminal justice system. So absolutely, the legal system contributes to systemic racism. And the best that I can do, quite honestly, is try and educate people. I thought the best that I could do would be taking on cases and, representing people to the best of my ability and getting people protection. But in reality, there are just far too many cases. There are far too many people that are being fed through this system. And so I urge you, to think about your choices. Think about the people that you are surrounding yourself with, and the experiences that you're going to be exposed to because of the people that you hang with. I've seen lives go straight down the drain simply because of a simple bad decision that was made one time, and they've basically changed a person's life forever. I have a person that I mentored who went to UCLA, who is sitting in jail right now for attempted murder against his mother. Okay. And that is because of who you hang with. Are you taking care of your mental health? Are you making sure that you're getting help for the issues that you're having, especially if you're poor? I grew up poor and minority. I saw the domestic violence. I grew up fighting. I was in many fights, and I got so lucky that none of the people I fought died, or I wasn't killed in any of those fights, and I didn't suffer worse legal ramifications because of it. So the advice here is the system doesn't care about you. The system doesn't care about who you are, doesn't care about who your parents are, doesn't care about where you come from or where you're going. What the system cares about is maintaining itself. Okay. And maintaining itself means putting people in different positions than what justice would say they should be in. Okay. And I know that's a kind of a bummer, right, on this perception of the system. But if you get in and you practice in it, which I have in many different arenas, then you begin to understand that it's far bigger than people think, and the problems that exist in it are far bigger than they think.